Okay. It's the Y2K Collector, and I am back with another video just going over some games because I will be doing some selling this weekend. I plan on thinning out my collection even more, and so I've been going through my Super Nintendo collection, and I thought it would be cool to kind of just highlight the top 11 or 12 most rare or expensive games in my Super Nintendo collection. And this doesn't need to be a long video, it could be real quick. So I'm going to go through these few games with you here now, and we're going to start off with Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars. This is a Super Mario RPG game, turn-based RPG game. This is one that is critically acclaimed. I've heard a lot about it. I haven't gotten too deep into this one, but once I do get some time, I do plan on diving in and seeing what all the hype on this one is about. But I am excited. I got this in a trade, so was pretty stoked to get it. Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars. Next up, we've got some 2D side-scrolling beat-em-up action in King of Dragons. This one's cool because it does have a few RPG elements to it. So I'm stoked to have this one in the collection. Label is in pretty good condition. Probably just going to get an aftermarket case for it. But King of Dragons is a classic on the SNES. Glad to have it. Next up, if you want 2D side-scrolling and action platforming, Sky Blazer is another rare one in my collection. I'm all about those 2D side-scrolling action platformers, and Sky Blazer is just a beautiful one. The gameplay, the mechanics, all of it is just a lot of fun. I've played this a little bit, got into it a little bit, beat a couple levels, but then kind of put it back down. So I will dive back into this one. Another beautiful Super Nintendo game. Batman, The Adventures of Batman and Robin. This is an after-school classic. For those of you who grew up in the 90s, you know all about The Adventures of Batman and Robin. That was a pretty serious cartoon. I think that's why it was rated Y7. But then again, a lot of cartoons in the 90s were Y7. I think The Amazing Spider-Man was Y7 too. Just because these cartoons, they were a little mature. But anyway, The Adventures of Batman and Robin, classic one. Beautiful looking game on the SNES. This too is a side-scrolling platformer. Check it out. This one plays a little different from the Batman and Robin on the Sega Genesis too. That one's more of a beat 'em up. I think the Batman Adventures of Batman and Robin on the Sega Genesis is more fun to play, but I think the Super Nintendo one is a better one to look at. Just my opinion. All right, time to get into some shooters. RType III. Now, my favorite R-Type game of all time is R-Type Delta on the PlayStation 1. I have that game, but this is a close second, a close runner-up. I do like the way RType III plays. In fact, I like it so much, I have it on the Game Boy Advanced. So this is a very good shooter. If you haven't played RType III, check it out. It's a good one. More 2D side-scrolling beat-em-up action in Final Fight 3. This is another one of those rare and expensive games in my collection. This is the best installment. I love the characters that they added in Final Fight 3. The gameplay is great. The colors, the graphics, all of it, just great. You can't go wrong with Capcom. So another one in my collection there, Final Fight 3. Now this one's really rare. I don't know how many people I've ever heard talk about this game or share it, but Imperium is a very interesting top-down shoot-'em-up on the Super Nintendo. Now, I'm a big shooter fan of shmups, so I always go looking for them. And when I found this game, it appeared to be, to me, Super Nintendo's version of Musha. So if you know what Musha is a top-down shooter on the Sega Genesis, probably one of the most expensive Sega Genesis games ever. But Imperium looks and plays a lot like Musha, so I don't know if this was their answer to it, but this is a very interesting shooter. If you ever see this one out and about, don't walk past it, because Imperium, not only is it a fun game, but this is extremely rare and expensive, so definitely check this one out. Imperium on the SNES. Another classic, Sparkster. So for those of you who've watched my channel, you know how much I love Rocket Knight Adventures on the Sega Genesis. That was one of my favorite games to play and watch my brother play as a kid growing up. Sparkster is the second installment to that series. There's also a Sparkster on the Sega Genesis, but the two do not play the same. They play very differently. I thought the graphics for the Sparkster on Super Nintendo actually looked better, but it's not like the graphics for the one on the Sega Genesis is bad either. I just kind of like the music and the gameplay in this one a little better. So yeah, Sparkster on the Super Nintendo, check that one out. This one's also pretty rare. I haven't seen this a lot either. But SWAT Cats, taking you back to the 90s, those 90s cartoons, man. That's really what drives a lot of this. It's that 90s nostalgia. So if you grew up watching SWAT Cats, this is one that you'll want to check out. This is not the most fun game, though. Not by any means on this list. SWAT Cats is a very basic game. But the graphics are amazing. Obviously, this is going to be a nostalgia blast. I enjoy having this game in my collection. Again, it is rare. This is like a $200 to $250 game, just the cart only. So if you do run into this one out in the wild, be sure to grab it because it is a cool one to have. Next one up, cart only again, but Sonic Blast Man 2. Now, I have Sonic Blast Man Part 1, but Part 2 just stepped it up in every way. From the special moves, the special attacks, your basic attacks, the graphics, the sound. This is just a much better version of the first installment. And if you do happen to run into this, Sonic Blast Man 2, I would definitely check it out. This is definitely one of the more expensive ones in the Super Nintendo. And it's really rare. But Sonic Blast Man 2 is really cool. That special move just gets me every time. I fight for freedom. That's exactly what he says when he does his special move. So check this one out. Sonic Blast Man 2. This is a recent pickup. This is the most expensive loose cart in my collection. And that is Metal Warriors. Oh man, I've talked a lot about this game recently. Everything about it, graphics, gameplay, it just seems so ahead of its time in every way. This feels like a game that probably belonged on the Sega CD or maybe the Sega Saturn, just in terms of gameplay, colors, just the overall story, just a really sick game. The attention to detail in this game is off the charts. Metal Warriors, if you get a chance to get this or even play this, check it out. It is a really cool one. And last but not least, the only complete in box SNES game I have in my collection, and that is, of course, the beloved Demon's Crest. This is a great game. Demon's Crest is not the hardest game. It's not the most complex game, but it is a very balanced and fun game. A lot of people think it's easy to play and easy to beat. I think it's just right. If you're a casual gamer and you haven't played a lot of SNES games, despite the scary cover, Demon Crest is a beautiful game. I mean, it's a fun game. It's easy to get into. I mean, just look at that. Look at those colors, man. Look at the graphics. This has to be, one of the most beautiful looking games on the SNES. And the SNES just had some really great graphics, period. But this is the crown jewel of my SNES collection, yes. And that does it for me. So I got all these SNES games, the rarities. These are the rare ones in my collection that I've got here. Definitely, if you've never heard of any of these games, if you haven't heard of any of these games, check them out. They're a ton of fun. They're a blast. And I think you will enjoy them all. But I am the Y2K collector. That's all I got. I'll probably come back with another video talking about my mid-tier games. I've got those Super Nintendo ones over there, and I'm still sorting them out. But let me know what Super Nintendo games you got. Let me know what are some of the rare ones in your collection. I'd love to know. Well, for now, that's all I got. I am the Y2K collector. I'll see you in the next one. Take it easy.